Hello. The summer after my junior year of college, I applied for a really competitive internship. And I remember that the sign on our school bulletin board said, "Do it all in one of Michigan's most famous cities." And I couldn't believe when I found out that I'd gotten the internship and I would be working for the Mackinac Island Town Crier. Now, for those of you who are not from Michigan, Mackinac Island is a really big deal in our state. It is one of the most popular tourist attractions that we have, and it's supposed to be kind of like the land that time forgot, kind of similar to colonial Williamsburg. There's a lot of historical reenactment there. And in order to keep the magic alive, they do not allow cars on the island. They only allow horses and bicycles. And the Mackinac Island Town Crier is a publication that runs weekly in the summer and bi-monthly in the winter. And I was so excited for my first day. I rode over on the Starline ferry, and I get off the boat, and I'm immediately hit by the smell of fudge and horse shit. And these are the other two things that Mackinac Island is famous for. The selling and packing of fudge is a very important industry on Mackinac Island. And I trudge up to the newspaper office, and that's where I meet William, and he is the editor and publisher of the Town Crier, lifelong island resident, and he looks me up and down, and he says, "Oh, now you know, I'm so excited to teach you how to do it all on Mackinac Island." And this is where I find out that doing it all means not only living above the newspaper office, but writing and photographing all the stories, and doing things like going down to the docks at 7 a.m. to wait for the ferry to come in to deliver the newspapers, which we'd have to take off pallets, put in like a little cart, kind of one of those like Monty Python, bring out your dead, kind of that situation, and wheel that around to refill all the newspaper boxes on the island. And I thought I would spice things up by trying to suggest story ideas to William, and I'd say things like, "Hey, William, what if we did a story about how the Michigan economy has affected Mackinac Island tourism?" "Oh, now you know, there's a historic baseball game up at Fort Mackinac today." "Hey, William, what if we did a story about the local election, the local school board election, find out if any of the politicians have skeletons in their closet? What do you say?" "Oh, now you know, the Mackinac Island first grade class is riding their bikes all the way around the island by themselves today." But one morning, really early, he called me. "Oh, now you know, Diane, there is a big breaking news that I want you to go cover. A big tree has fallen in the cemetery." So I ride my bike up to the cemetery. It's kind of in this remote area in the middle of the island, and I get up there to photograph the big tree, write about the big tree, interview everyone about how they feel about the big tree having fallen down the night before. And while I'm there, I start reading, the historical signs that have to do with the cemetery. And I'm reading it, and it says that the cemetery was originally down on Main Street, like with the rest of the island, kind of near us. And it had been moved in the late 1800s by the settlers there. But fun fact, they did not take all the bodies with them when they moved the cemetery. And in fact, those bodies were basically buried underneath the town crier office. So I bike back home and I say to William, I heard that there's bodies underneath the office. Does that concern you?" "Oh, now you know, Diane. Those folks, they probably was undesirable or poor and they just didn't feel like moving them. But you know what? They're long dead. I wouldn't worry about it." But late that night, I'm in the apartment above the office, and I'm listening to the clip-clop of horses' hooves on the cobblestone, and all I can think about are these restless spirits that are possibly buried underneath the newspaper office. And it's like every time I look out of the corner of my eye, I expected to see a colonial woman standing there. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it, about this possible ghost, and I imagined that her name was Mariana, and that she was a prostitute who had come over on the Canadian fur trade. And perhaps she had been sleeping with the Reverend, but now she was carrying his child. And he didn't want anyone to know, so he poisoned her and her secret baby. And she was buried in that cemetery, and now her spirit haunts the town crier office. And every single time I heard like a floorboard creak, I would imagine it was Mariana pacing the halls endlessly. And every time that I would come back to my vanity and find things moved around, I would think maybe Mariana was trying on my massive collection of Sephora lipsticks, looking for that perfect shade. And every single time my internet went off and on, the power would go off and on for hours, sometimes for days. Maybe Mariana was upset that instead of avenging her death, I was looking up videos of sea cucumbers. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but like, when your primary entertainment in life is walking down Main Street hoping that a shop has changed its window display, it's kind of easy to believe in a ghost. And I knew it was being ridiculous a little bit because even though it was really easy to poison people in like the 1700s, like ridiculously easy because you could just blame it on natural causes and they didn't know. I've read like a lot of fiction, so I know what I'm talking about. And there were no prostitutes on Mackinac Island. I mean, there was no criminals on Mackinac Island. Every week I would read the police reports, and the big crimes were minor shoplifting, horse and carriage accidents, and bicycle theft. But I still wanted to believe. I wanted to have something interesting to take back with me after my summer on Mackinac Island. And one day I was scanning through those police reports at the police station, which was located in an old grist mill. Why wouldn't it be? And I saw a story that caught my attention. It was a story about a man that had lost $500. I pulled all the files, all the statements. It said that the man had been hanging out with 2 new female friends, and at the end of the night, they had stolen $500 from him. Then I read the female friend's statement, and they said they had given he had given the $500 to them at the end of the night because he was just that nice. Then I read the man's wife's statement. And she said that they were prostitutes. They were Mackinac Island prostitutes. And they were sleeping with men for, and this is a direct quote, fudge. Thank you. Fudge, souvenirs, ferry tickets, and whatever else they could get. And I knew this was my way to avenge Mariana's death and, like just break a scandal. Let's do something in this town. Come on, I'm a reporter. I want to do this. And I wrote the story and I turned it into William the next day and he read it and looks at me. Oh, now you know, Diane. The Lilac Festival parade is today. So I'm going to need you to head down there because the Budweiser Clydesdales is coming. So as I'm standing there in the parade route, I realized that William's never going to publish my story, and I'm never going to race down to the docks at 7 a.m., rip open the pallets, and see prostitution ring uncovered, daring young reporter exposes the truth. William wanted the story to stay buried the way that the bodies were buried underneath the town crier office. But the more that I thought about it, the more I kind of sympathized with the man in the prostitution story because he was probably just looking for some fun and companionship, and is that really so wrong? And I feel like I had kind of invented Mariana for the same reasons, because after all, on Mackinac Island, everyone needs a boo. Thank you.